Long ago, all the birds of Britain flocked together in Dorset, on the wide, grassy summit of Maiden Castle. There they began to cheep and tweet, squawk and talk and argue amongst each other, trying to decide which one of them should be king of the birds. One by one, the birds stepped forward and boasted of the finest features and individual qualities that made them the one that should wear the crown. The first bird to step forward with great long strides was the Grey Heron. "Look at the length of my lovely legs! Surely these are the legs of a king, and my neck and my bill are elegant and slender as well, as I stand fishing by the riverside with such regal posture and poise." As the heron finished, the kingfisher flew forward in a flash of bright feathers. "Well," said the kingfisher, "if it's fishing we're talking about, then there's no better bird than I. What's more, my feathers aren't gloomy and grey like herons. They are ablaze with royal colours, red and green and blue, and need I mention, there's a clue to my claim in my name. I am Kingfisher, after all." After Kingfisher had made his case, there was a whirring of wings as the nimble skylark flew up and then hovered above their heads and began to pour out a long song of serenading sweetness. It was such a lovely, liquid melody that for a moment there was silence amongst all the other gathered birds. "Listen to the melody of a monarch. I sing because I am destined to be king." But the nightingale and the song thrush, they fluffed up their feathers and puffed out their chests before singing songs of their own brilliance and beauty. "Squawk!" said the magpie with a sudden impudent intervention. "Beauty is overrated. It's brains that matter. What's the point of colourful feathers and sweet singing if you haven't got the wit and wisdom to rule the kingdom? Everybody knows that I, Magpie, am the cleverest of all our kind," although crow and rook and raven noisily began to claim that they had the same brains. "Well, what's more," said Magpie, "I have collected a treasury of trinkets to wear at my coronation, bling fit for a king." "My darlings," said Starling suddenly, "if it's bling that makes a king, then that should be me. I wear my treasures on my feathers. I shimmer and shine all of the time. It's I, surely, that should wear the crown." Well, as that day wore on, each one of the birds had their turn: blackbird and corn bunting, goldfinch and falcon, but together they simply couldn't agree who should be the king of the birds. Until eventually, in the late afternoon, a great dark cloud fell across the sides of Maiden Castle. High above them all was a great golden eagle, with wide wings and strong curving beak. He landed in front of all the other birds, pierced them with the gaze of his golden eye, and uttered an imperious cry. "Ah! Cease your squabbling and listen to me. The king of the birds should be the one who can fly the highest in the sky. We will have a contest to decide who can claim the crown." Well, the other birds didn't like to disagree with such an impressive and dangerous-looking bird of prey, and so they quickly consented to the eagle's suggestion of a flying competition. The birds soon fluffed up their feathers and warmed up their wings, and then, under starter's orders, a loud boom from the bittern, they all jumped into the air and they started to flap and flutter and fly. Higher and higher and higher they flew, each bird flying as fast and as far as they could. But soon the smaller birds, like robin and bluetip, they began to tire and drifted down. Then bigger birds, like crow and cormorant, well, they had to give up as well. Even skylark and kestrel, who were used to flying high in the sky, eventually they dropped back down to the ground. And in the end, there was just the mighty, magnificent golden eagle, left still soaring higher. And when he reached the roof of the sky, he opened his beak and he declared, "I am king of the birds." But Just at that moment, there was a little movement from behind the eagle. A wren, little Jenny Wren, had been clinging on to the eagle's tail feathers, and just at that moment she fluttered up and out and then danced on his head and finally flew just a little bit higher than the eagle. "No," she said in a small, certain voice, "I am the king of the birds." Well, the two birds, they slowly circled back down to the ground, each one claiming that they were indeed king of the birds. But by now the eagle was angry. "She cheated," he declared to all the other birds, "and because she cheated, she must die." The birds were shocked at such a thing and soon began to cry for the fate of the poor little wren. But the eagle, with a cold glint in his eye, gathered the bird's tears in a big silver bowl, intending to drown the wren. But when the last bird came to cry into the silver bowl, Owl, well, she wasn't much used to being awake in the daytime, and she stepped forward uncertainly and clumsily, and soon she tripped and trod on the edge of the bowl, which tippled and toppled, and the tears were spilt into the ground. Then all together the birds cried out, "No! You cannot kill the wren." And it's true. The wren didn't die. She's still alive to this day. Well, the golden eagle, he still soars high in the roof of the sky, and he claims that he is the one that wears the crown. But now you know who really is the king of the birds. It's the little wren. And if you ever see her, perhaps in the hedge at the end of your garden, you should take off your hat or bow down your head and say, "Good morning, Your Majesty." Well, that's one of my favourite little folk tales about the feathered creatures deciding who should be the king. And some people think that it might have a deeper historical resonance because 2,000 years ago, at the time of the Roman invasion of Britain, the insignia of the Imperial Roman army was the eagle, whereas the symbol of the Iron Age Celtic tribe who lived in Dorset, the Durotriges, was the wren.